Testing 1, 2, 3. Give me 1 second, guys. I have to take care of something. Just give me like a minute. All right, there we go. I have to do a few more things, but I can take care of it after the live stream. So, how is everybody? Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we're diving into Abby and Libby's case, also known as the Delphi murders out of Delphi, Indiana. Just wanted to share some thoughts with you guys. So they've released a lot of evidence, a lot of these trial exhibits, and for me, it's painted a clear picture of what's been going on and what I think happened, and I'd like to share that with you guys, and then get your opinions also on what you think. I'm pretty sure you've all seen the recent released trial exhibits, and if not, hopefully you'll go take a look at them soon. So what I'm going to do today is kind of explain what I'm seeing here, and this is just my opinion, but I believe for me now it's obvious that Richard Allen was stalking the girls via Snapchat. And also, this information leads me to believe that Richard Allen and Keegan Kline are even more connected now than ever. So that's what we plan to do with today's live stream. We're going to tie in Richard Allen stalking these girls via social media, a group of friends, really. He's stalking the entire group, but for whatever reason, um, he's really specifically targeting Libby or Abby, but he's using this entire group network that's attached. He was able to infiltrate through Snapchat via the Anthony Shots account. So every time they upload information to Snapchat, he's using that to try to pinpoint where Abby and Libby will be at a very specific point in time. Titled it Moving with Purpose, because we're trying to figure out what his purpose was. If he's moving with purpose, that means he's reacting to certain things. And now that I see these images here, and we have all the timestamps, and we're no longer confused, and we're no longer speculating about what was going on with the witnesses. We almost know exactly what they were doing, where they were, who they were with. The only thing we don't know is those same answers to those questions when it relates to Richard Allen. Who was he with? Where was he? But I think now I know. I think that he was with Keegan Kline in Peru. I think he was with Keegan Kline in Delphi at the cemetery. And I think everything that they were doing was based off of this group of girls here. Bree Wilbur, this small group, and then Libby. Good to see you, Mark. Welcome in. Before we get started, let's see who we have in the building. We got Patty. Always good to see you, Patty. My friend Jill. Sensei, what's up? Julia, how you doing? Jerry. Zara Octo. What up? Tom B. Beth Gonzalez, how you doing? Zara says, same sweatshirt at the crime scene. Nope, that's a volleyball hoodie. The one found at the crime scene is a swim team hoodie. Thanks for playing, though. Better luck next time. Frank Meister, what's going on, my friend? Inquisitive, sleuth, what it do? Listening while I work. Glad to catch it. Hopefully you have a great day, my friend. Very intrigued on what you have to say on this live. Let's go. Yeah, we have a lot to unpack. And I'm trying not to get like over anxious like Tommy Boy, you know, when he has his little pet. So everything makes sense right before I go live, and then everything, you know, I just want to spit it all out. So we'll take 2 steps back, take a deep breath, and hopefully we can articulate all this. Lots to go over, but I think we'll start here. Good as place as any. So this is kind of a timeline that I put together that I believe proves that Richard Allen was stalking these girls. And this is just kind of the first half of it. I couldn't walk away if I tried. Inquisitive. Karen, how you doing? Love Bomb, welcome in. Potential Richard Allen client connection has been eating at me for years now. Let's unpack it. Well, that's pretty much what we're doing all day today here during this live stream. But I think we should start here. 12:43. Now, I believe this is a photograph that Bree Wilbur took, if I'm not mistaken, right? And uploaded it to Snapchat at 12:43. So what time did this group of girls, Bree, Voorhees, you know, when did they all get to the trails? When did they go? I know that they had to be home by 2:30, and they were on foot. I know that 2 girls on their way to the trails picked up Bree and another girl and walked on foot to the trails. So I'm thinking they were there, what, from 12 to like 1:30? It's an hour and a half. What's going on, Phil Bond? And Big Phil. We got Phil Bond and Big Phil. D, good to see you. How are you? Hope everything's going well with you. She Warrior, hopefully you're having a great day at work. Don't let the man get you down. Audrette, how you doing? Andrew, how are you? What color was the swim sweatshirt? It was black and gold. What's going on, Beth? Country boy, welcome in. And what do they mean by back? Now, does back mean that they crossed this bridge and they came back? Is it the back of something? It's almost as if they're communicating with somebody, like, we're back. Remember when we were watching Libby's video, we were trying to figure out what the hell had disturbed the ground right there. Like, was it Libby? Did she cross the bridge way before Abby and she had time to kind of go down the hill and explore a little bit? Like, hey, how are we going to get out of here? Where do we go? What are we looking for? But either way, the ground was disturbed. Was that this group of girls that disturbed it? I don't think they would have taken the young kid across that bridge, right? Weren't they babysitting this young girl right here? But Bree could have separated from the group for the sake of photography. So I don't know what that means. Back. To me, it almost seems as if I went across this thing, I crossed the bridge. And maybe telling the other group over here, like, hey, I'm back. Just some thoughts. Diamonds, what's going on? A cyber warrior. Julia, maybe they mean they were at the bridge, went somewhere else, and then came back. That's my first thought. Okay. Who are they talking to? I'm assuming it's probably Abby and Libby. Abby and Libby have been trying to get out here. They know that their friends are here. And they've been wanting to get out here. They got up at 10 a.m. So between 10 and 12, they've been trying to figure out a way to get to the trails. And they're running into all kinds of roadblocks. Becky's like, no, we're busy. If you help me, maybe after. So they're trying any opportunity that they can find to get to the trails, they'll take. And then here comes an opportunity. It's Kelsey. Like, hey, I'm doing this, and that. And they're able to negotiate a ride to the trails. But remember, Kagan Klein and Richard Allen's alibi both begin at 12 noon. What time did you get to the trails, Richard? 12 noon. Okay. What's your alibi, Keegan Klein? Well, I was with my dad and my grandparents from 12 to 3. How convenient, right? 12 to 3. So 12, 12, 12 is their alibi. But I find it strange because it looks like that's about the time that Bree and these other girls were planning to be at the trails. So if you have Bree, these girls, and Libby all talking about going to the trails, and you have a group of men targeting Abby or Libby specifically, they're going to be using this information to pinpoint exactly where they're at, right? And remember, Richard Allen is moving with purpose. So he has a purpose. He's motivated by something, and I believe that has to do with the conversation that took place the night of the 12th, early the morning of the 13th. It may even be some type of physical contact. I think that maybe Anthony Shots went into real time, made contact with the girls maybe on the 12th. Maybe met outside late at night, sneaking out. And maybe they said they were going to expose him or something. Or he got nervous. Remember, he's very worried about what people think about him. Like in a weird way, like in a radical kind of way. Everybody knows I don't like what people think about. I don't like it when people are thinking bad about me. Like, who talks like that? Hey, what's up, Anthony? How old was the youngest girl? You know what? I want to say 9 years old, but I could be wrong. This might not even be the youngest, but I think it is. So I believe these two girls were walking to the trails. They picked up Bree on the way, and then they all started walking together. I'm assuming that was around 12. Okay. So I believe it's at this point, right around 12, before this photo was even taken, or at least uploaded to Snapchat. I think you have Richard Allen and the Kleins at the cemetery at 12. Richard Allen's had time to go home, get all his shit, get his gun, get whatever he needed to get all liquored up, whatever. They're now at the cemetery smashing a few beers or worse. We know that Richard Allen stopped by his mom's in Peru. And for some reason, something that stuck out to him was that she had recently had hip surgery. We thought that there was some kind of a drug element to this. So I think it's possible that he went to visit his mother for the sole purposes of acquiring like Percocet or Vicodin or something like that. So now you mix Percocet and Vicodin with 1 or 2, 3 beers, and you can do some serious damage. And then also Richard Allen, he knew these girls in great detail. Nobody's going to have that kind of detail just passing them. Oh, I think they were babysitting. You know, he knew their whole life story, right? And they were babysitting. He knew one was taller than the other, long black hair. You want to know why? Because that wasn't the first time that he's seen these girls. He had already seen them. He had already had this photograph here on Snapchat. And he could have even mistake this person, which I believe is Bree. Remember, we hear all of these Richard Allen supporters putting out these creepy videos on YouTube about how really Abby is Bree on the bridge. Well, the thing is, those goofy people, they get it half right sometimes. Because if you're looking at this photo on Snapchat, it's obviously not Bree taking the photo. It's a photo of Bree being posted to Snapchat. But it looks like Abby. Something very peculiar about this photograph that looks like Abby. And like I said, those nut jobs, sometimes they get it half right. They're not lying. There is a resemblance. But if they could just get a grip on reality, they might be able to get a little bit closer. Timestamped 126. Okay. Well, what happens right after this is uploaded to Snapchat? We got Captain Dipshit in his asshole mobile going over here towards the CPS building 2 minutes later. $127.37. So you have somebody that looks like Abby being shown to the group on Snapchat at 126, and 2 minutes late, less than 2 minutes later, you have Captain Dipshit heading over to park at the CPS building to launch their attack. Okay, now why is he coming from the direction of the cemetery? Well, remember, Keegan Klein confessed that that's where they went. Him and his father. This is not my words. These are his words. And this isn't some jailhouse snitch third-party recollection. Keegan Klein sat down with not only Nick McClellan, but the entire investigative team. The guys, he called them. So he took them, the whole team, to the cemetery, told them, hey, look, I waited right here in a car. My father met with another person out here, went down, came back about a couple hours later, covered in mud and blood, saying that that they just had a good time. That's what he said. This isn't somebody overhearing him say it. This isn't some jailhouse snitch saying, well, he told me this. This is literally Keegan Klein sitting down, giving an official statement, video recorded, and signature at the end. Now, wouldn't that explain why Richard Allen is coming from the direction of the cemetery? There's no reason for him to be coming from this direction. When they cross the bridge, force them over the creek to us. Nobody will expect them to come back across the creek. What's the first thing everybody says when they come across the Delphi murders? The one thing I always hear is, why would the killer cross that cold creek? Why would anybody go through that cold creek? Well, sometimes the question is the answer. The fact that you're asking the question and why it's so unbelievable is why somebody might be compelled to do it. So that you wouldn't see it coming. Like, can people grasp this concept? It's good to see you, Anthony. I might have missed this, but do you know what time this back Snapchat was taken? Which one? Oh, yes. This one was taken at 12:43. Well, posted to Snapchat at 12:43. What's up, Eminem? Try to catch up on the chat real quick. Oh, they all did. The only thing about that, Anthony, is that if you can't prove it, it's useless. It's useless. Everything that these investigators are doing, they're doing it with the trial in mind. We collect evidence because we have the trial in mind. We're doing these interviews with the trial in mind. Everything they're doing is they know will eventually end up in a court of law. And a confession from a guy like Kagan Klein without physical proof or evidence to back it up is useless. Defense attorneys would eat Keegan Klein alive and anybody trying to use him. Why the long faces, Abby and Libby in the car ride over? I mean, it's all up to interpretation. It's a snapshot. Doesn't really mean a whole lot, Zara, to be honest. Did this alone because he knows the evidence, even though couldn't prove it. Okay, but don't you guys find it very strange that right at 1:26 you have a photo that's posted to Snapchat, and I think there's a good chance that Kagan Klein and Richard Allen, they're viewing this photo. They're like, "Oh shit, is that her? Yeah, that's her." 1:26. It looks like they're over by the bridge or over by the bench. And then 2 minutes later, you have this guy zipping, moving with purpose, parking at the CPS building in a disguise, leaving from the direction of the cemetery where Keegan Klein confessed him and his father were waiting. Well, he waited while his father participated in a crime. Why cross the creek? Well, to bring the victims to the rest of your group or part of the plan, right? They'll never expect it. They'll never see it coming. Richard Allen says, "Oh, I'll do it. I'll force them across this creek." For all we know, they were already down there. Richard Allen and this guy down there next to the creek, looking at it, looking at the sandbar, looking at how shallow the water is, and talking about how cold it is. But when you're high on Percocet and alcohol, I really don't think it matters all that much, guys. Okay, so you have this guy zipping 1:27 shortly after a Snapchat post. 2 minutes later, and then you have Betsy Blair seeing him out there. He's like, "Damn, that wasn't her." And remember, he passed these girls. They said he glared at them. They said hi, and he was moving with purpose, and he glared at them. He was not having a good day. Here, let's read some of this testimony, actually. I think this might help. All right. Brianne Wilbur, one of Kelsey Siebert's best friends at Delphi High School, missed seeing Siebert's younger sister, Libby, at the Monon High Bridge by mere minutes. So the thing is, these guys had to be home at a specific time. I believe it was these two, the sisters. They were told, yeah, you can go out, but you have to be home by 2:30. Now, one of them testified that she saw the guy at about 2:15, and the defense tried to eat her up for it. But really what she was doing is she was home by 2:30, right? And in her mind, she was thinking, well, it's a 15-minute walk from the Freedom Bridge back home. So that's all she did. I was home by 2:30. I subtract the 15-minute walk. I must have seen that guy at about 2:15 because that's when they were leaving in her mind. But truthfully, they were leaving more around 1:30 because everybody else did have photographic evidence or proof. They had the photo right here. It's timestamped 1:26. You have other photos from the same bench being marked at 1:26. And then shortly before that, 12:43. I just don't know why there's almost like 45 minutes in between this photo. So there's about 46 minutes, I think, something like that. I might be off by a minute or two. About 45 minutes between this photograph and this photograph. So they must have kind of been lingering there. You know, getting a bunch of photographs or whatever. Now it's time to head out. 1:26, they're gone. But guess who comes and tries to cut them off, head them off at the pass? This guy. Why? Why is he so motivated by a photograph that looks like Abby? And I think we can all agree that there is a resemblance. So he gets out here onto the first platform. Betsy Blair shows up and says she sees a man who looks like he's waiting for somebody. So he's like, shit, that wasn't her. That wasn't them. So he's probably starting to think that the plan's not going to work. He may have even start walking to go join the rest of his group up here on a trail. There's a trail that'll lead right below the cemetery and into the crime scene right here. And we've seen people like Randy Gravitt, I think Gray Hughes, Greeno. A lot of people have kind of showed us this path. Wild Adventures with Michael, that video I showed you, they were kind of coming back up this path right here. So I think Richard Allen may have started walking once Betsy Blair leaves. He's like, oh, shit, that wasn't them. Maybe he was going to go walk and join the rest of his group. And while he's around here in this area somewhere, he gets this Snapchat image. He's like, oh, shit, they're right at the bridge. So now he starts coming back this way. Right after this photograph, the bridge guy is already behind them. And it must have been within 3 minutes he was on that bridge. So I'm thinking he's coming from this trail, turns around, and then says they're here. They're right there on the bridge. I'm going to go ahead and force them down the hill to the rest of the group. Surveillance footage from a nearby business shows Siebert, who dropped off Libby and Abby at the trail that day, driving away from the trailhead at about 1:49 p.m. Closer to the west end of the trail where it crosses US 25, the two high school sophomores said they saw a man. Wilbur said he gave off weird vibes and was walking with kind of a purpose, like he knew where he was going. He didn't appear friendly. After Voorhees waved at him, he didn't wave back and seemed to glare at her. So he's pissed. He's like, shit, that's not her. He's specifically looking for Abby. With the camera off of her face, he realizes it's not her. That's not her, guys. It's not her. Okay. Rayleigh Voorhees was 16 and a sophomore at Delphi High School in 2017. She knew of Libby and Abby, but wasn't close friends with them. She testified that she would often take trips to the High Bridge to take photos, and because there was no school on February 13th and the weather was nice, she decided to take a trip to the bridge that day. Voorhees said she walked from her dad's house in Delphi with her half-sister. Okay, so that's her half-sister. Picking up her friend, Bree Wilbur, from her house and then getting her sister from her mom's house on the way to the trails. The four girls went to the bridge, took photos, and then walked back home. It was on their walk back home that Voorhees testified that she saw a bridge guy walking on the trail. She said the encounter stood out to her because the man was overdressed for the weather, with what looked like a heavy coat, hooded sweatshirt, and hat. She said he had his hands in his pockets and had a mask over the tip of his nose and mouth. It was probably a scarf that he later used to tie up Abby. She also recalled saying hi to him. He did not say hi back. He glared at me a little bit, but he didn't seem to be a happy person, she said on the witness stand. When she first heard Abby and Libby were missing from the bridge area, she testified, I thought it could have something to do with the man I saw. It was unsettling. I don't think so, Karen. I think that Anthony Schatz, he's kind of everything that you see on the screen is what he was looking at. He was looking at this photograph. He was looking at this photograph. He may have even seen this one on another social media platform. He saw this photograph and also this one, and maybe a few more from the girls traveling from home to the bridge. So this is how he's able to kind of plan his attack. And you can kind of see him responding to the Snapchat photos. 126, a photo that appears to look like Abby. 2 minutes later, he's parking at the CPS building, coming from the direction of the cemetery, and trying to confront the girls and kind of pissed off. It's almost as if he was disappointed. And he knew about them in great detail. Oh, one had long hair, one was tall, one was short. They were babysitting. He knew everything about these girls, not because he had just passed him for a brief moment, but because he's been stalking them. He knows all about what's going on with them because he's seeing what we're looking at right here. And everything that was posted to Snapchat the day priors. But something was going on the day before the murders with Abby, Libby, and Anthony Schatz. And we don't know what that is. Law enforcement doesn't know what that is. I think that has a big part to play in why they were targeted and the purpose. The bridge guy was walking with purpose. Richard Allen's walking with purpose. Well, what is his purpose? I think once we figure that out, that'll answer everything. On February 15th, the day after the girls were found, Voorhees gave police a statement while she was at the high school. When police then released the photo of the man on the bridge that they took from the video on Libby's phone, Voorhees first saw it on Facebook. in quotations, I realized that was the man I saw on the trail that did not respond to me when I waved at him, she testified. When Auger questioned Voorhees, she called into question the timing of when Voorhees said she saw the man on the trail. Voorhees recalled that it was around 2:15 p.m. when she saw the man in the wooded area of the trail near the Freedom Bridge. That wouldn't line up with the same man being in the girl's video on the bridge at 2:13 p.m. News Wayne 15 put in the walking distance from the start of the Monon High Bridge on the west end to the start of the east side of Freedom Bridge, which goes over the Hoosier Heartland Highway. And Google Maps said the distance is less than 1 mile, 0.7 miles. Auger also questioned Voorhees about her descriptions of the man she saw to police. Voorhees was also questioned on February 17th. Auger said Voorhees' description of the man she waved to was wearing all black and was in his 20s or 30s with a bigger build and dirty blonde hair sticking out of his hoodie. She says, I don't recall saying that. The description in the second interview was that them and he had curly hair, square jaw, and brown eyes. Voorhees says, I don't think my memory has been impacted by the imagery, she said when pressed by Auger. Prosecuting attorney Stacy Diener asked her if she's ever given a statement to police before or had to testify height or weight or age or distance before. Voorhees said no to all. She also didn't have a timestamp of a photo to verify her recollection that the encounter with the man on the trail was at 2:15 p.m. She said she had to be home at her dad's house in Delphi by 2:30 p.m. But when she first saw the picture police released of Bridge Guy, she said, I can say with confidence that's the person in the picture. In the picture is the person I passed. See, that's it. That's what sealed the deal for Richard Allen. Testimony from Brianne Wilbur, Voorhees' friend who was with her on the trails on February 13th, has a similar recollection. Wilbur was also friends with Kelsey German, Libby's older sister, and was friends with Libby on Snapchat. See? Wilbur was 16 years old and a sophomore in high school in 2017. So they're all friends. So Richard Allen, and as I believe, as Anthony Schatz, he used Anthony Schatz to gain access. So now he has access and he's able to view everything. And when these girls are documenting their every move and saying, hey, we're here and we're going there and I'll catch you guys here, and you have a predator basically hunting you, you're basically giving him everything that he needs to kind of plan his attack. Wilbur said while at the High Bridge on February 13th, she posted a picture of herself standing at the bridge's start on her Snapchat story. When she and her friends were walking back home from the High Bridge, Libby messaged Wilbur on Snapchat in response to the photo on her story, asking if Wilbur was still at the bridge. So 10 minutes before. Okay, so once again, you have Libby kind of announcing her movements here. So more proof that this guy could have been stalking through Snapchat. So let me read that part again. Libby messaged Wilbur on Snapchat in response to the photo on her story, asking if Wilbur was still at the bridge. She told Libby they had left the bridge about 10 minutes prior. Okay, so this is 10 minutes after they passed the bridge guy. 10 minutes go by. It's about an 11-minute walk to the bridge. And Abby and Libby are now already on their way to the trails. You have Bridge Guy sitting on the bridge being witnessed by Betsy Blair. And he's like, damn it, where are these girls? You know, I care how people think about me. I'm not going to let these girls ruin my reputation and ruin my marriage. Hence why he said, you know, I'm no longer cheating. I'm a sex addict. Things like that, because he's using burner phones to live out all these sick things that he's confessing about. That he's repenting for, that we found no evidence for. because it's all just on one device. And I think maybe in his mind, that's what he was doing. He was going out to cheat or to silence people after cheating or attempting to cheat. Something was going on the 12th, the morning of the 13th, late in the night of the 12th, early into the morning of the 13th, shortly before the murders. And we know for a fact that Anthony Schatz was communicating with Libby that entire time. Okay, let's see. Snapchat response to the photo of her story asking if Wilbur was still at the bridge. She told Libby they had left the bridge about 10 minutes prior. Snapchat stories can be seen by other people who are friends with the user within the Snapchat app. Those friends can message and respond to a photo on a person's story. Photos posted on a story disappear in 24 hours. Photos and messages can also be sent directly from one Snapchat friend to another. Photos sent in a direct message disappear after around 10 seconds. Photos taken in Snapchat, whether posted on a story or sent in a direct message, would not automatically save to the phone's camera roll. A user could, however, choose to save a photo they took in Snapchat to their camera roll. Some of those setting options have changed since 2017. On the way back to the Freedom Bridge, Wilbur testified that she also took a picture with her friends on a bench on the trail and posted it on Snapchat. So that would be that one right there. And you can see the bench that she's sitting on. She saved the photo with the timestamp and gave it to police. That photo's timestamp was 1:26 p.m. on February 13th. She said they continued walking back toward the Freedom Bridge after the photo, and that's when they passed the man in question. It was a warmer day, and he was dressed in many layers and a heavy jacket. He was walking with a purpose, like he knew where he was going. When Rayleigh said hi to him, there was no hesitation. It was weird vibes, Wilbur testified. Later that same day, Wilbur was with Libby's sister, Kelsey, and Kelsey's grandma called saying Libby and Abby were missing. Wilbur talked to police the night of February 13th and described the man she saw on the trail. She said the man had a blue or black jacket and had his head down. When she later saw the photo of Bridge Guy on the news, Wilbur thought, that's the person we saw on the trail. Defense attorneys Andrew Baldwin called Wilbur's description to police of the man she saw and it not matching the man in the photo from Libby's video. You described the man's height as you were as high as his forearm. He was a tall guy, Baldwin said. Correct, Wilbur said. Did you see a guy around 20 with brown curly hair by chance? Baldwin said. I don't recall, Wilbur said. Okay, before we get on to the second part, let me catch up on the chat. Welcome in True Crime Housewife. I believe they threatened his family. That's why he kept asking, is my wife okay? Search the timing, state of money. All right, this is what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to watch the beginning of Richard Allen's first interview because he kind of gives his account of what he was doing and what happened.
Yeah, great. See you later, Richard. Thank you. I don't know if I gave you one of my cards. There it is. I had to give it. So, the reason we wanted to talk to you is about the accountability case. And I appreciate your time doing that. And as a formality, before we talk to anybody about these things, I want to make sure you understand you're not under arrest or anything like that, okay? And the door here is open. You can leave anytime you want. I'll be glad to give you a ride back or whatever.
Did you see that? That's it. That's the psychological chains. Look, he tried to stand up.
Oh, so there you are. So the reason we wanted to talk to you is about the, like I said, the accountability case. And appreciate your time in doing that. And as a formality, before we talk to anybody about these things, I want to make sure you understand you're not under arrest or anything like that, okay? And the door here is open. You can leave anytime you want.
Watch this.
Be glad to give you a ride back or whatever.
Isn't that weird?
But
it's kind of a weird interaction between them.
we need to make sure that we go cover a formality here, and when we get to the page.
Superficial charm.
This is a Miranda warning. So
What's
before
up,
we ask any
cheeks?
questions, you need to understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask any questions, and have it with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, we'll be appointed for you for any question if you wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you have the right to stop answering anytime. You also have the right to stop answering anytime you talk to a lawyer. Now,
What's up,
like I said,
Silver?
you're not under arrest, so just want to make sure you understand those rights. Down here at the bottom, it says, I read this statement of our rights and understand our rights. I do not want a lawyer at this time, and I understand what I am doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, no pressure or coercion of any kind has been used against me. If you be willing to talk with us, or just if you understand your rights, we just need your signature there. We cover that. Okay? Okay. Now, this is a formality we take care of whenever we talk to anyone.
We're just going back to the beginning of the case, and we know you had talked to Lieutenant Doolin. We just want to figure out what you saw when you were out there before.
Great, wonderful. Okay. Now,
He said, "Great, wonderful."
Something that you had done when initially you had
Miss
talked
Dog
to
Lover.
Lieutenant Doolin, and according to Lieutenant Doolin, the information he got to you was that you were on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30. Does it make any sense? Okay. And that you had parked at the old Farm Bureau building. I think that may have been the old welfare office out there.
Cindy, what up?
While at the Freedom Bridge, you saw three females and noted that one was taller and had black or brown long hair. This is basically what he had written down. Okay. And maybe even got some information about your phone or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. So now you understand everything. So I want to make sure that we just kind of get some information from you as we get started here off the bat with today's date, which is Thursday. And today is 10/13 of 22. What time do you have, Tony?
11:45.
10:45. And your full name
What's up,
is?
Melissa?
Richard.
H-A-R-D.
Matthew. Allen.
That's A-L-L-E-N.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how old are you now?
50 years old.
Okay. Your date of birth?
9972.
Okay, great. Could I ask you to write down the social number where the X is at right there?
I'm in the 50-year-old club this year.
I'm beyond that, actually. So.
Just turned. No.
Sorry. Hard to believe.
Superficial charm.
And do you know your driver's license number off the top of your head?
No.
Don't worry about it. The home address, I didn't get it when I was out there. What is it?
1967.
67.
I think so,
Whiteman.
Presence.
White Man Drive.
Did I say hi, Jay?
Okay. And the phone number we contacted at?
317-612-4533. Would you have a water?
What's up, Don?
Got one right here, Tony.
Oh, okay, sir. I'll be right back.
And do you have any of their cell phone numbers that you can be contacted by?
I got my wife's number.
Okay, what is her phone number?
317-612. 4753.
Okay.
Never dial numbers anymore.
You don't, I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah. Okay. And how long have you had that phone number that's your, 317 number?
I believe I got it when I worked at Indy, so it would have been prior to 2006.
Okay.
Because it's an Indy number.
Okay. Okay.
And then also we have Richard Allen coming out of the cemetery. So you have Keegan Klein saying that him and his father were waiting in a vehicle right here. His father comes walking out of the woods, meets back up with him, and says, we, plural, we just had fun. Betsy Blair sees Richard Allen on 300, muddy and bloody. Like, is it all starting to make sense yet?
So, let's see, and can I ask what kind of phone you have?
It's an Android, a Google.
Okay. Yeah, what's your email address?
RICK2045 @frontier.com.
What's up, Neil?
Do you have any other email addresses?
Probably.
I have a couple myself, so I asked.
Yeah, I don't use it very often.
Jessica Mendoza. What's up, stranger?
It's Foojaka, FOOJACKA.
Foojaka.
0 @gmail.com. And I had one at Yahoo at some point too, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, great. What kind of social media do you do applications you use, like Facebook, at all? Do you have a Facebook account?
Oh, my wife does, I don't.
Sounds so familiar. Yeah. Okay. And does she post often? Things like
She's, yeah,
on all the time?
and she does.
Okay, all right. So what is your marital status?
Married.
Married, okay. And have you been married before?
No.
Okay. Number of children, you were talking about your kids, your daughter. What's your name again?
Rick. Oh, my daughter, Rick Jr. No, BRITTANY.
Okay.
What's up, Diane?
You know, you said you did math earlier.
28,
28, okay. She's born when, you said?
1994.
He doesn't tell the truth,
And what's your
Diane.
last name now?
Zapanta. It's ZAPANTA.
Okay. And any grandkids?
No.
Oh, okay. And what's her husband's name? Is he from
Maybe.
around here?
He's originally from the Philippines,
Oh, okay.
but lived in Canada,
Up in here.
and he's been here shortly before they got married, so around 16, maybe 15, 16,
Okay.
I don't know. They got married in 17.
What's his name?
Paulo, P-A-U-L-O.
Okay. P-A-U-L-L? Oh, I put another one.
P-A-U-L-O.
I got it. Okay. All right. So, but he lived here for a while. So I never assumed Zapanta's being around here.
No, not around here.
Around here?
No.
Maybe somebody else.
She was already up in.
Okay. Just a quick pause here. So don't forget, Richard Allen worked at a CVS right around less than a mile from where Keegan Klein was staying. It's basically the closest convenience store to their home. If you need something, you need beer, whatever. Prescriptions. I think he was a diabetic. Or photographs illegally printed or something. So we're talking less than a mile away. And Richard Allen didn't transfer from this CVS until the end of 2016. And I don't know why. But shortly after he transfers from this CVS, he commits a murder in Delphi. Most likely with the people that were living in this home. At least one of them. So just to kind of give you an idea, we have Keegan Kline or somebody logging in. Remember, Richard Allen says, and we're going to hear him in the interview here in a minute. He says, my wife went to work. I left and I went to go visit with my mom. Well, she works from 8 to 5:30. It's about a 40-minute drive from Delphi. So if she's getting ready for work and he's already up, I can just see him saying, hey, I'm going to go see my mom, and lying about it. And I'm not even sure he wasn't staying the night in Peru. There's no way for us to prove that he woke up in Delphi and then drove to Peru because, one, his wife would have to basically verify that story, and so would his mother. And, no big deal. So he drives, let's just say, for the sake of argument, he drives from his home. Of course, he's going to take the black car. I don't care what anybody says. He said it himself. If I'm traveling, I'm taking the black car. So if he leaves, he would have had to leave the home before his wife left. So I'm going to take the black car. You take the other car. Okay, I'm just going to work. She worked like right over here somewhere. I think in this little building. Then he travels out here, apparently, to sit with his mother here. Well, the morning the girls were murdered, Richard Allen is saying he's here. Well, at 8 a.m., now remember, 8 a.m. is about the time he would be arriving in Peru. You have Keegan Kline on two phones that law enforcement has yet to find. They haven't identified these phones yet. Logging in and logging out. 8 a.m. in the morning. Right? So this is part of his transcript. They're asking Keegan Kline, okay, well, on February 13th, this would have been logged in a little bit earlier. So that would have been 8 o'clock in the morning at your house. Precisely the time that Richard Allen would be arriving in Peru. All right? You have somebody logging in and logging out on two separate devices, it says here. You have been around 8 o'clock in the morning at your house where you and your dad lived. Two separate devices. They say, see the numbers here? How they're the same? Log in, log out. Log in, log out, one device. Log in, log out, all within minutes of each other to the same Anthony Schott Snapchat account. They don't know what devices these are. They ask him they're very interested. And if you go through the entire transcript, they're asking about these phones subtly. What two devices were these? And they say this is a fact. So at the very moment that Richard Allen is supposedly arriving in Peru, you have somebody logging in and logging out on two separate devices into the Anthony Schott Snapchat account, the same Snapchat account that was communicating with Abby and Libby the day before, the night of, and the day of. Right? Now, this is the same guy that sat down with Nick McClellan and Doug Carter and Vito and Tony Leggett and said, hey, look, I was with my father. We drove to Delphi. I waited in a vehicle while he went down to the murder scene. So we're talking about the same man who has confessed to participating in the crimes. At 8 a.m., he's logging in and logging out of 2 separate devices that law enforcement has no clue where or who has these devices or what happened to them. No clue. And if you read the entire transcript, they make that clear.
Happening when you met him.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right, graduated high school, where at?
North Miami.
What year?
91.
Okay. And any other vocational training, college classes?
Went to Ivy Tech, like a couple semesters.
It's out there, Jay.
What'd you study there?
Accounting.
Okay. Any other vocational training or? Okay.
Well, I was in the military, but
Okay, that's a question coming up here. Were you involved in any fraternal
What's up,
organizations,
Poos?
clubs or athletics or anything like that in school?
I did some track here and there. I did football for like a year, but nothing serious.
Okay. Any clubs or National Honor Society or something like that?
Oh, no.
What do you mean, Vegas? You're reaching for what? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean by that. I don't think I've read. I don't think I've been reaching at all. Everything I've pretty much put on here has been a fact. So you can put this information together however you want, but it is factual.
National Guard, Army National Guard.
I think it's funny when people pick and choose what they want to believe from Richard Allen. Well, Richard Allen said this, so it's true. Well, Richard Allen said that, it's not true. It doesn't fit my narrative, or it does.
Okay. Mostly around.
It's weird how people just bend everything.
No, it was in, I was born right, well, not born, but I lived in Mexico most of my life.
Mexico, like in
Indiana.
Indiana, like in Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay.
You always get that. Yeah, Mexico, Puerto Denver.
So do the Kleins.
Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
Richard Allen spent most of his life in Peru. Well, guess what? So did the
National
Kleins. Hey, Anna.
All right. Go to church anywhere?
No,
Have you ever?
on occasion, nothing.
Okay. Where did you usually go to?
Pretty sure that's it, Anna.
No, not around here.
Boston.
Parents go to church, or did they take you to church?
No, my grandparents went to church. My parents didn't.
Oh, I see. Okay. Any criminal history? Have you been arrested for anything? Any medical problems, heart trouble, high blood pressure, psychological disorders?
Oh, yeah, everything.
Okay.
I've had a heart attack. I've got a couple stents.
Okay.
And,
How long ago was your heart attack?
it's 2010.
Okay, you were 40.
37.
Holy cow.
Here's Kathy's work schedule that day.
Depression, anxiety,
8 to 5.
high blood pressure, cholesterol.
And right at 8 in Peru, you have Anthony Schatz logging in and logging out to 2 phones that law enforcement do not have their hands on. They don't have them in their possession.
So you said you've been there how many years?
Since, well, not the one here, but with CBS since 2013.
Okay. So you worked at CBS somewhere?
Yeah, I worked in trained in Marion. I worked in Peru, and then I came to Delphi. I'm thinking 16, 17, 16.
What do you mean, Jay? Give me an example.
I've been there a while now.
But you said you lived.
People like to talk
out
shit,
there
but they
since
don't.
2000.
They don't ever have an
So you drive
example.
back and forth? Those CBS?
Yeah, I was leading Walmart. Like I said, I spent 10 years with Walmart. I was actually a store manager at one point with Walmart. Chose to leave the company and do something different, and interviewed with CBS and Peru was the district manager that I interviewed, but Peru was the furthest western store that he had, or closest to me.
Mhm.
So that's where I was going to be working, and it just didn't work out the way that I thought it was long term. I mean, I was there several years, but I wanted to, they had a training position, a managerial training position. I told them I didn't want to do that anymore. Long story short, and put in the transfer
Yep,
back.
they both
and,
do, Cindy.
Like I said, I hit 16, I'm going to say around 16, 17, somewhere.
Yep, Sarah Carbaugh.
All right. Well, managing is kind of hard sometimes, I understand. Is there a particular reason why you didn't stay in management, or?
Tired of it, the bureaucracy, just not really being about taking care of the customer. It's more about hitting this number on this spreadsheet and that number on that spreadsheet. And then you
J-Ray,
get called
everybody's
every
talking
15
shit,
minutes,
always.
You didn't hit this number on this spreadsheet. And none of them really help you take better care of the customer.
Thanks,
you spend
Don.
your time managing scorecards, and I just had enough of it.
Sure.
I was just tired of it.
Sure, okay. Okay. Let's see, so from where we're at right now, I think probably.
There's no evidence of that
Can you
either,
help us
chicks.
understand what was going on Monday, February the 13th? Can you kind of tell us what you were doing that day, and remember the day the girls
Okay.
went on the trail?
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up, Betsy?
I went over to my mom's in Peru, Mexico.
Okay, here we go.
Earlier in the day. I think my mom had had hip surgery back then, or she'd come over and they were. I went over to my mom's
Okay, he went over to his mom's.
in Peru, Mexico, earlier in the day. I think my mom had had hip surgery back then or something, but regardless.
Hip surgery. That makes me think maybe they were stealing some of her pills.
My wife was working, so I went over there and spent the day, not the day, I spent the morning with.
Said my wife was working, so I went over there and spent the morning. Well, his wife works 8 to 5. So if she's waking up at what? I don't know, maybe 7, 6:30, 7-ish, an hour before, 2 hours before. He could have been well on his way and in Peru by the time she arrived at work in that black car.
Them. My sisters come over and they were going to go eat lunch and stuff, and I wasn't about that. So
He says his sisters came over, they were going to go have lunch, but he wasn't about that because he wasn't there to visit. Either he was using his mom as a lie, as an excuse to go to Peru. Like, okay, I don't work today. You're going to work, Kathy. I'm going to go visit mom. But truthfully, he's going to go, he has something to take care of. He's got to go get together with the Kleins for whatever reason, for whatever this purpose is. But he has to stop by mom's or else it'll be suspicious. You told me you were going to go visit your mom. Well, I did, right? But not really.
I went home.
What else does he have to do?
And I remember it was a fairly warm day, or warmer than normal, so I think I just put a jacket on and went back out to the trails. Usually when we go, we walk down to High Bridge and walk back and walk down the other side and come back. I mean, it wasn't a ritual, but I remember walking down to the bridge. The times, I left my mom's, it was probably around 11:15. So.
Okay. So we're at the top of the hour. We're going to start closing it down. I think I pretty much shared with you guys everything that I had. We can most likely finish this off in the comment section. Let me just go through my notes here. So, I mean, that's basically what I wanted to do is kind of give you guys the view from where I'm sitting. After all this information was released to me, it's absolutely 100% obvious that Richard Allen was stalking these girls through Snapchat. And it just so happens that Anthony Schatz was talking, grooming Libby, talking to them the day before, the night of, and the morning of, up until the point that they disappeared. I just find that extremely hard to ignore, considering that Kagan Klein has officially confessed. This isn't some Reese Davis who's looking for notoriety or shortened sentence, or hearing it third hand. Everybody says, well, Ron Logan confessed. I didn't hear Ron Logan confess. I've never seen or heard about Ron Logan sitting down with Nick McClelland and Doug Carter and saying, I would like to confess. I'll take you to the crime scene and I'll show you exactly what happened. The only person that I know of that's ever done that was Kagan Klein. He's the only person that has asked to officially confess to his participation in the crime. And the only thing that sucks about all that for investigators is they were not able to prove it. If they could just find one piece of proof that connected Richard Allen to the Kleins, I mean, that would have been the headline. But instead, we get this weird trial where people are still unsure of the system and things just don't feel right. Well, that's the reason they don't feel right. It's because we only have half of the story. Pixie Neutron, what's up? New to your channel. Appreciate your view on this and sharing this. It just falls together. Every time he takes a drink, he darts his eyes around the room, has to look for cams, etc. Yeah, or almost as if he's lost in thought, like he's trying to keep his story straight. But yeah, every time he moves or he needs to release energy, yeah, he kind of rolls his eyes around the room. I did notice that. Beth, agree 100%. Thank you so much for this live. You're welcome. Let's put this one back up before we get out of here. So this is exactly what Richard Allen and what the Kleins were looking at. I just don't know what the purpose is. What is Richard Allen's purpose? Why is he stalking these girls? Why is he rushing to the CPS building after he sees an image that almost looks like Abby at 126? Right at 127, he's flying by. Photos uploaded to Snapchat, and there he goes. It's almost as if they're like, okay, guys, it's time to launch our plan. You go down by the creek. I'll go park at the CPS building, and I'll flush them out. Once they cross that bridge, there's nowhere to go. Everybody will know that they crossed the bridge. We're going to force them over the creek. Nobody will suspect that. Why cross that creek? Because nobody would expect it to happen. It doesn't make any sense. So that's why they chose to do it. Okay, so you have this photograph taken around 2:05. 2 minutes later, you have this. And at 2:13, this guy's already across the bridge. So that tells me that he already accessed the bridge from the north side 3 minutes prior to 2:13. So 5 minutes after this photo right here, 5 minutes later, he's already on the bridge. 2 minutes after this photo, he's in his car headed to the CPS building. And when he bumps into these girls, who he was able to give a great description and great detail, he's pissed. Not the girls that I thought they were. That's not Abby and that's not Libby. Gives him a bad look, putting off all kinds of bad vibes because he's moving with purpose. What's his purpose? I don't know, but he's definitely stalking on Snapchat. And most likely meeting with the Kleins earlier that morning and then again at the cemetery. There's just no solid proof to tie it all together. That's got to be extremely frustrating for law enforcement. The tip line is closed. They're done. Case is closed, guys. They're all content. Maybe sometimes we just don't. Maybe truth is an illusion. Maybe we don't deserve the truth. Maybe nobody ever really gets the truth. You know, you take bits and pieces of the truth and you take what you can. And you're grateful for the pieces that you were able to grab. Is that it? Should we be satisfied? So we have a guy that was in Peru around 8 o'clock in the morning. We have the Anthony Shots account logging in and logging out at the client home at 8 in the morning. We have that same person confessing officially to the crime. We have Richard Allen driving back into Delphi, changing his clothing, going to the bridge, and driving away from the cemetery. Oh, man. Hey. It is what it is, guys. But either way, I want to thank everybody for joining today in the live chat. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover, for the flex. Thank you guys for supporting my channel. We are 100% crowd funded, so it goes a long way when you guys become members, when you share the content, when you donate to the Cash App, the Venmo, the Zelle, or however you guys choose to support, getting merch at sleuthintuition.com, whatever. But the easiest way is really hitting that like button and sharing the videos on your social media if you can. But either way, your input is enough for me. So I want to thank you guys, and we have a busy schedule today. So I'll see you guys again later, and members, I'll see you again even after that for the merch giveaway. So thank you guys, and take care of yourselves. Peace.